It's Way Up with Angela Yee. I'm Angela Yee on a Wealth Wednesday, joined by my partner, Stacey Tisdale.
Happy Wealth Wednesdays, everybody. We are so excited, and we have some amazing information for you because of something that happened recently. Everybody out there with student loans knows that on July 1st, the government raised the federal student loan rate to 6.53%. From 5.5%. That's the highest level in a decade. And this hurts a lot because Americans owe $1.75 trillion in student loan debt. The average person has about $28,950 in student loan debt, but brown people have $52,000 worth of student loan debt. So we are it was an SOS kind of call to the money coach, Lynnette Khalfani-Cox, who is just one of the greatest financial experts out there. She is the author of Zero Debt for College Grads, New York Times bestseller, been on more than 1,000 TV shows, including Oprah, Today, Good Morning America.
Way Up with Angela Yee.
Way Up with Angela Yee many times. You were here with us in March when the pause, that 3-year pause on student loan repayments was lifted. So what the heck's with these rates?
Well, like you said, it's not good news at all for anybody who is deep in debt when it comes to student loans. And it's really going to amount to people paying thousands of dollars more for higher education over the loan repayment period. You mentioned we're up to $1.7 trillion or so in student loans. And we have about 43 million Americans who have college debt. And a lot of times people think that, this is just a millennial or maybe even a Gen Z problem, but we know that that's not correct. We know that Gen Xers, like myself, have student loans. I don't personally, but the same people in my age category who are 40 something and or 50 something. We know that a lot of baby boomers have student loans, and even a lot of members of the silent generation. So this hike that we're seeing in the interest rates for federal student loans up to 6.53%, it's going to have long-lasting ramifications.
I compare this also to even if you're looking at mortgage rates and interest rates on that, that 1%, a little more than 1% makes a huge difference when it comes to how much you end up paying.
It really does, especially over decades of time. And the reason I was saying before that people mistakenly think that it's just a young person's problem is that it takes the focus off of how long it is that people really do wind up with student loans. And on average, it takes people like 20 plus years to repay their college debt. And as Stacey mentioned a few moments ago, for people of color, it takes even longer, given that historically we have lower overall incomes to begin with, less discretionary income, and then we have more debt that we rack up because, again, historically our families haven't had the adequate resources to be able to pay for tuition fees, room and board, books and supplies, to foot those bills out of pocket. And so we wind up with more student debt to begin with, and then we take longer to pay it off.
Speaking of taking longer to pay it off, this has never happened before, how people are responding to this. So as we've mentioned, the freeze on student loan payments that came from the pandemic was lifted in March, but only half of people have started repaying their loans. There's 19 million people have just not done it.
Yeah, they're in default or delinquent.
Yeah. And why? That's just unprecedented. What do you think's happening there?
Well, I know unequivocally what's happening right there. Those 19 million people, I can't say for every single one, of course, but I'm saying by and large, they've not yet shifted to this new reality where everything that happened pre-pandemic is like a lifetime ago compared to where we are now, 4+ years later. So before the pandemic hit, it was one thing to have to deal with rent, groceries, credit cards, etc. But now everything is so much more expensive. It's not just the student loan debt that they're grappling with. They're grappling with higher rent and or mortgage costs, higher debts overall, whether that's, buy now, pay later loans, whether that's credit card debts, whether that's auto loans. The average credit card right now is above 22% interest. So when you look at it, Experian came out with some data that showed people who have student loans have bigger overall debt to service. So on average, somebody who has student loans pays about $1,500 a month for all of their debts and obligations, whereas people who don't have student loans pay about $1,100 a month. So even that $400, difference is very telling. So this is part of the reason why those 19 million people haven't been able to get back on board and to pay those loans. It's because everything else has gone up and their income has not kept pace with the rate that we've seen on those student loans going up. And you were mentioning numbers there, Stacey, about 28,000 on average. That's correct when we look at averages for some groups. But again, those numbers are bigger for people of color and for people in certain age categories. Gen X, again, my generation, happens to be the category of folks who have the biggest student loan balances, somewhere around $44,000, almost $45,000. So this is a real issue that people are going to have to kind of get acclimated to. And I'm telling folks that they need to, get on to student aid, the Department of Education's website, start looking at their options for repayment, particularly trying to get into some income-based repayment plans if you are struggling to make ends meet. I know that those are
we definitely want to talk about income-based repayments, but just staying with the impact of these higher rates and people not paying, President Biden kind of did people a solid. He said your interest is going to accrue, but it's not going to go on your credit report until September if you don't start paying these loans back. Talk about the impact of that, and a lot of talk about the upcoming election all over the place right now. Talk to people about the difference in the student loan debt situation under a Biden administration versus what's being proposed by a Trump administration.
Right. And I just want to say that's also important because part of what Biden has been trying to do with his administration is to get rid of student loan debt. And that has definitely been pushed back on. He's done a lot of workarounds, but some people also look at it like he didn't keep his promises. So I want to make sure that we discuss, like Stacey just said, what is really going on when it comes to what could happen
and what
in
the courts did.
Well, to be honest, I would really push back on the concept that Biden has not kept his promise with regard to providing student loan relief. This man been working hard as I don't know what to try to push through student loan forgiveness, cancellation, et cetera, for tons of borrowers. And he has, in fact, canceled about $167 billion for about 4 million people. When you ask about the comparison between what life would be like for borrowers under a Trump administration versus a Biden administration, well, we already have the evidence of that. We already know. Under Trump, the entire GOP absolutely tried to restrict student loan forgiveness and student loan debt cancellation. And we remember how for more than a year, there was arguments about whether or not folks should get student loan forgiveness when all those people who got PPP loan forgiveness, they didn't say anything about that. But they put those, through for small businesses to, offer relief on that end. So it's very clear that not only has Biden tried to do loan forgiveness, which got struck down by and large from the Supreme Court a year ago, then the Biden administration said, okay, well, I'm going to use some other means to provide loan forgiveness. And in a nutshell, this is the 60-second version of it. They used 30-year-old mechanisms through income-based repayments. They've been doing income-based repayments for 30 plus years. And most observers, legal scholars, et cetera, said, okay, well, they actually do have the right to do this because it's under existing law. Well, they pushed through this plan called SAVE, which replaced pay and repay. Pay was pay as you earn, and then repay was revised pay as you earn. So under the SAVE program, and there's 8 million folks enrolled in the SAVE program, they basically knocked people's student loan repayments in half because they did a lot of tweaks to the formula. They protected more of people's income, saying that if your income as much as 225% of the federal poverty rate, you didn't have to pay anything on your student loan. You could pay zero. In other words, if you're single and you make $15 an hour or $32,000-ish per year, your student loan payments could be zero. And even zero qualifies as a student loan repayment. So catch this, don't miss this part. Even with a zero repayment, that counts towards student loan forgiveness or cancellation. So people who had already been paying for 10 plus years, many of them received cancellation under SAVE. They also cut the discretionary income. So under pay and repay, it was 10% of your discretionary income had to go towards student loan repayments. Now under SAVE, only 5% of your discretionary income has to go towards student loans. That's why it's been cut in half. Final two things I'll note, and then I got to hop here. You mentioned that interest. Interest is very, very important. We had so many Gen Zers and millennials out there. God bless them. Thank the Lord for them. Because they were noting, and properly so, that how come people have been paying 10, 15, 20 years and their loan balances have increased? It's because all of that interest that gets capitalized or added to people's student loan repayments. Well, now under the SAVE program, which again is under attack by the GOP, in which I have no doubt that Trump would also fall in line and say, yeah, y'all got to pay this back as well. But under the SAVE program, one of the tweaks that they made is that they took the interest, the unpaid interest, and they said it does not accrue as long as you make a payment. So that includes the zero payment. So that's why people's loan balances are now finally starting to actually go down as they should if you've been making payments. So again, I would give a forceful thumbs up. I'm not pleased with everything that Biden has done, but on this front, no, he absolutely has kept his promise and has delivered on the student loan front. He's facing tremendous opposition, though, and over a dozen states led by GOP Republicans, of course, have attacked, and now they're trying to come after the SAVE plan too.
Okay, and I know you have to go. So where can people go to find out what they qualify for, just so they know where they can get accurate information?
Studentaid.gov is a website through the Department of Education. On my own website as well, which is askthemoneycoach.com, free financial advice. I have a ton of student loan articles on there that tell people about getting loan forgiveness, loan cancellation, and about a variety of student loan repayment programs too.
Excellent. So askthemoneycoach.com for incredible resources. We have been talking about federal student loans. I know a lot of you out there have private loans. Lynnette can give you great information about that. And also follow her on Instagram at Lynnette Khalfani-Cox. Thank you so much for coming in and just shedding light on all of this. Really appreciate it.
Really important information.
Thank you guys so much. You know what? Before I go, I just want to thank both of you powerful women for consistently bringing financial literacy, financial education, and financial empowerment to your audience. This is beyond a valuable and much needed service that you're doing. No, it's business, but it's also a service, and I really do applaud your efforts. For years and years, you guys have been doing this, and I don't want you to think that your efforts have gone unnoticed.
Well, thank you so much. I know. And it's so important for us to have credible people like yourself right, that are being represented in this space too, because we want to make sure that everybody's getting top-notch information from people who are credible. So thank you.
Exactly. We're really focusing on experts, and you are just have been at the top of that list for so many, even back our Wall Street Journal days. Thank you so much. This is such an important issue, and we stepped into the election season, so we're going to be talking about these things. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you.
That's right. Thank you, ladies. Take care now.
All right.
Bye.
Don't just pray for us. Get out and vote.
I know. Exactly.